Hey guys, welcome back to the world of strategy. It's been a long time since I uploaded the stream, so I thought, yeah, it's about time to do it again. So here I am, little different setting, but let's go. Let's dig right into it. Okay, so the title of this video is Defensible Space, Oscar Newman's efficient theory regarding security and crime prevention. Not just for corporate environments per se, buildings or stuff like that, but even for cities in its overall neighborhoods, cities, communities. He wrote a book about it in the 1970s, Defensible Space. It's still one of the go-to books for security professionals in terms of security planning, applying environmental factors into a security approach, integrate them into security policies and procedures. It's one of my personal favorites, and I will discuss this in this live stream why that is. Let's see if I got everything. My phone turned off. Yeah, perfect. All right. So yeah, defensible space. Let me give you a short introduction, a short definition of what the theory represents and what it is. Okay, so Oscar Newman was an architect and city planner. He was not per se a security professional, which is why I find his approach to defensible space and security through environmental design and factors is really mind-blowing and true in so many cases. His defensible space theory, in a nutshell, says that the best way to create a foundation of security is to optimize environmental factors, whether that's surrounding a building, a target, an object, or even a community or city or a town, whatever it may be. The first thing that will give you a proper security foundation is to optimize environmental factors, which he referred to as defensible space. So what in fact is defensible space? Well, it's already in the name, isn't it? Defensible space is a space that needs to be defended, or surrounding area that needs to be defended. It can be whatever you want it to be. That's why I love the definition so much. It's not necessarily geared towards, okay, we're going to defend a building, or we're going to defend a castle, or we're going to defend a fortress or a military base or a fucking company. It can be anything. It can be any one of those things. It just says, okay, there's a certain space that you're responsible for, or that you have assets in, or that's of certain value to you. We need to defend it. How do we start? And Oscar Newman's theory was, we're going to start from the very basic foundation, which is the environment surrounding it. If you look at military planners right now, it's what they do or what they aim to do most of the time. First of all, how do we decide where a checkpoint or a base, or what is a good place for a base or a checkpoint? How do we assess this? How do we determine this? And many times you will hear, well, because it lays a strategic important area, or a tactically advantageous area or position, and that's why we put the base there, or that's why we put the checkpoint there. And it is a very important aspect and a very important element. There is nature itself. Once you optimize it, can be an incredible weapon. And I personally, I love defensible space. I love pretty much most theories surrounding using environmental factors in order to enhance security. It's something that I do a lot in my own work as a consultant. Something that I always advise to people, to clients, to business owners is, look at what you got. First, look at optimizing the position that you have without even thinking about budgets, fucking policies or procedures or any of that stuff. Just look at the shit that you've got. Look at what your place is, what your space is, how it's built, how it's with what it's surrounded, who frequents there. All of these factors you need to take into account, and oftentimes you will see that you can already drastically or dramatically improve your security and safety just by optimizing those factors. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what defensible space is. There are many theories, variations on defensible space. You have crime prevention through environmental design, which is very big in the security planning and consulting and risk management business right now. It's something that you will hear all the time, and it's basically, it loans a lot from defensible space theory. And again, it's all of these things that will help you get yourself in a better position in order to fight crime, protect assets, and manage risks. That's basically what it is. All right, so Oscar Newman pretty much like created this theory, or this theory came to fruition in the 1970s. Um, but actually, the concept, the theory in itself, was already used hundreds of years before, thousands of years before. Um, if you look at the ancient world and the way that their cities were built up, um, from high to low, pretty much, and in those societies, in those communities, what you will often see was that the most important structures, the most high value structures, the elite, and all of these things were at the top of the city. A great example of this is the Greek city states. Athens, for example, the Acropolis, which was their prime building, their prime epicenter, was laid at the top. So it came from the top and all the way down. Um, it's basic knowledge that the higher you are, the easier you can defend a certain position. Um, so this was one of these reasons. You put the most valuable stuff at the top, and you build down low to less valuable. And this included people. This included aristocrats. This included, every aspect of society with a certain value to it, and it would be built from high to lesser. Another great example is if you look at, for example, the works of Leonardo da Vinci. He was a dramatic advocate of the right city planning, using the right architecture, using the right build-up for a city in order to make it flourish, not only economically and financially, but also in case of attacks. He was also thinking about that. So these concepts and theories are not necessarily from 20th century. They've been applied all over throughout history. Only now, Oscar Newman was maybe the first one that really kind of translated it into a modern code, if you will. Because he was just not only talking about, okay, we need to optimize geographical and environmental factors, but we also need to optimize social and cultural and psychological factors, which I'm a big fan of myself. Because what is your environment? Your environment isn't necessarily only the buildings that surround you. It's not necessarily the bushes. It's not necessarily the beach, the forests, the sea. These are very important factors, don't get me wrong, but it's also the people. It's also the community. It's also the rhythm. It's also the vibe. It's also the way it's taken care of or not taken care of. All of these factors determine the possibility of crime in a certain area or surrounding a certain object. And this is not only true for cities or for towns or for villages. This is also true for companies and corporations. It's something that they say all the time. The atmosphere in a company will determine, for a very good portion, the likelihood of crime, theft, or security breaches. Because unhappy people become tense, tense people become agitated, tense people become desperate, tense people become angry, become hateful, become resentful, and all of these emotional states in turn will lead one way or the other to negligent behavior, reckless behavior, and possibly crime and violent behavior. So looking at an environment transcends the physical. It's also a battle and state of the mind. It's also an assessment that you make on, okay, the spirit of what I'm trying to defend. What is it, and how can I optimize it? This is a very important aspect of defensible space theory, and it's something that needs to be employed a lot more today, because in the security industries, especially now over the course of the last decades, with the rise of cybersecurity, electronic security devices, it has become very easy for CEOs, for business leaders, and even for security managers and risk managers to kind of take the easy road and say, okay, look, especially if you're working for a big corporation or big enterprise where money isn't always an issue, it's very easy to say, okay, listen, we're not going to invest in this. We have something to parade. We have something to show, that we're taking security seriously. We have done, or upheld the standards of due diligence to a certain degree, and let's just do this, buy this, and get all of this stuff in order. And it is fancy, so the clients will like it, the employees might like it, hell, in some cases even the media might like it. But how much does it really protect and defend? Because many security professionals that are working for not only for high value enterprises but for mediocre companies, small businesses, non-profit organizations, they oftentimes are not in a position to say, okay, we're going to buy state-of-the-art security equipment and security measures. 9 out of 10 times it simply doesn't happen. Out of all the fancy stuff that you've read in all these manuals when you were training to be a protection officer, pretty much only 5 to 10% you can actually apply in real life, regarding, of course, or depending on the job that you currently have. If you do work for such a company and a high enterprise where budgeting and stuff like that, it's not an issue. Good for you. But still, sometimes it's still hard to get that agenda flowing, to say to the guys that have no idea of security and that only think about other fun stuff that, okay, this is something that we need to do, or this is something that we need to create. It can still be very challenging. So what makes defensible space so effective, apart from using the environment itself as a security measure, is that it's oftentimes, because of this, very cost efficient. And being cost efficient will make you a very likable security officer and a very likable risk manager in 9 out of 10 cases. Because if there's one thing that CFOs or CEOs don't want to hear is, I want more money, I want state of the art this, I want expensive that. They want to hear, what's your best solution with the least risks attached to them as possible for the cheapest price. This is the reality of the situation. It's not a good reality, unfortunately, but it is a reality that security professionals face every day. That drives risk managers crazy. But it is the truth. It's the reality. Everybody has a certain agenda, and it is your job to push yours and to be creative about it. And in that case, defensible space creates very low profile yet highly efficient and applicable substance to base your security approach on. So when I consult, or if somebody asks me this, what would you do in certain situations? And I always I'm very, very careful with what I answer, because here's the big problem with security planning and strategies and strategizing security measures and making security plans. It all depends on your defensible space in this instance, or rather your assets, your target, your clients, your object, whatever you're defending or whatever you're planning to defend. It all depends on that. And a part of that, it also depends on how far are the ones responsible willing to go in order to let you do your job and to do the things and push through the things that you want. And that's in many cases where shit gets rather hard, because you won't get all the resources you need, you won't get the budgets that you need, and they will still be looking at you if there's a security breach. Even though you've advised them against it, even though you've warned them 1 million times, you're responsible. And it's one of those things that makes the security industry a very risky trade to be in, because the reputation is all you have. It's very hard to build, and it's very easily broken, unjustified, I might add. So one of the first things that I always say is okay, what can you do with the current policies and procedures in place? And if we're going to talk about defensible space or crime prevention through environmental design, you can also say, okay, what can you do with the design, the environment, the milieu, the atmosphere, the social cohesion and hierarchy right now in the object or the company that you're defending or that you're trying to defend or planning for. Start with this. Put it on a list, write it down, rehearse it in your head, think of it. Try to assess, determine, and identify as much of these things as possible. And then come up with a solution for, okay, how is this going to protect my assets, whatever that may be? And then make a list of all the ways in which it can do that. It's a good starting point. to start a plan, to start planning for risk management and security. So defensible space can always be applied. That's the beauty of it. Like a state of the art electronical X-ray machine, a state of the art antivirus software, a state of the art how do you say, a state of the art locking mechanism, if you will. It's great to have. It's great to have it into your repertoire. It's great to have those resources, but unfortunately, it's not always applicable. Not because it doesn't do its job well. I've no doubt that those products are amazing, and even now as we speak, there are probably like three, four new products coming on the market right now that I don't even have a clue about. That are probably highly effective, highly efficient, and will do the job for you. However, it cannot always be applied because of the things that I've just said, because of the obstacles that you will face in real time. Um, Defensible space isn't one of those things. It is incredibly cost efficient. Um, it's universally applicable, and it only requires you to get to know your space, your environment, your object, your enterprise, and whatever surrounds it better. So it's not only great for security procedures and security measures and integrating them, it's also great for your awareness as a security professional to really get an understanding about, okay, where am I actually working in? What can come from the environment, good or bad, advantageous or disadvantageous? And just go through those things in your head, write them down and rehearse them. That will highly improve your awareness, situational, social, but also environmental. So it's a win-win for everybody. And listen, there's a very big difference in talking to a risk manager, a security manager, or CEO or CFO, and saying, okay, listen, or cybersecurity is shit. We probably need to spend thousands of dollars doing this or this or that, or just saying, okay, listen, this place right here, right on the windows on that side, on the A wing, get the bushes out of there because there's just too less visibility and there's a lot of high profile stuff in those wings. I would like it if we have a bigger view so we can put some proper cameras, some good vantage points to improve our surveillance all around. They will not, let me tell you, they will not be against that if you compare these two measures. Because guess what? It's fucking a lot cheaper to clearing out some bushes, so to say, than it is to installing thousands of dollars of high-tech security equipment that will come with a very big manual and other associated risk attached to them. So it's easy, but it goes so far. If we go all the way back to counterterrorism, anti-terrorism, crime prevention, and all the manuals and books and plans and strategies written on that, all of these things come. What always comes back is, okay, how do criminals select targets? How do terrorists select targets? It's relatively the same. The easiest target, the easiest target, the highest value, the lowest risk. That's what they want in the end. They want an easy job, and an easy job for them is the least risk attached. Even um, the professional criminals, the professional terrorist, will determine, okay, if I have multiple high value targets, which one gives me the highest probability of success and the least amount of risks. That's how it works. Because if you are a criminal, what don't you want? You don't want to get caught. You want your price and get the fuck out. And by the end of the day, that's the goal here. It's not to end up in an epic firefight with security police and SWAT on your ass. That's the worst case scenario for a criminal. Just like it's the worst case scenario for us as a security professional. If a criminal actually selects our object or assets and actually is actively trying to damage, steal, or um, how do you say, destroy them in any way. So again, and that starts with visual stimuli. What is easy? What is hard? How does it get determined? Well, it starts with reconnaissance. If you are applying your reconnaissance, you're looking at different areas, you're looking at different places to attack or target. You will drive through different kind of neighborhood cities or through buildings or along buildings. You will look and you will assess what is easy, what is hard. And if you show me two targets, one target, uh, poorly maintained buildings, poorly maintained windows, low on hygiene, abandoned, discarded, neglected, a lot of coverage around it, a lot of bush, not enough light. And on the other side, you will show me a building, beautifully maintained, the gardens or the parks or the little grass fields around it, beautifully maintained, open spaces, well maintained walls, visible cameras, proper lighting. What will you choose to attack if you know that the price inside is relatively equal? You will go for the first one because it's abandoned, nobody cares, seems to give a fuck about it, and the other is maintained. It has a certain aura about it that, okay, people are frequently coming here, people are working here, this is a thriving place, this is a place that has its shit in order. And that scares criminals and it scares terrorists. And that's the basic foundation of defensible space and crime prevention through environmental design. It's a basic example that I'm giving you now, but this is pretty much what you want to install in the adversary. You want to install and send a message that says, look, listen, we're prepared. We're a well, properly smooth sailing ship here. Um, we're not very feisty, we're not very tasty for you. And unless the criminals have a very specific target in mind, um, they probably won't bother you. Um, so that's definitely something to think about. The second thing to think about, and something that I always advise, which is a great part of defensible space in my opinion, and crime prevention through environmental design and security in general, is the environment, um, the mental, the psychological, the spiritual environment, if you will. So let's say we're talking about corporate security, security for corporate environment, security planning, risk management, all that stuff. And we, we want to enhance security. The first thing you start, the most important thing that you start with is the people. You start, okay, why does the security need updating? What are the weaknesses, the vulnerabilities in the current approach? And seems to be the deal with the people and the security measures? Are the people an obstacle for the current security planner, or are the people an asset? Because this is a very important thing, because the people are your psychological and spiritual environment in a way. The atmosphere surrounding the people inside the target, inside your object, inside the space that you're trying to defend or protect is a very foundational, a fundamental part of that environment. So you need to get a grip on, um, are people happy with the current plans? Are people aware of the current plans? How do the employees, visitors, clients, etc. of ours, how do they perceive security? How do they perceive the specific security plans and procedures and policies of our company, of our enterprise, of the object that we're working for? And then you kind of get a grip, okay, what do we need to improve on the social and the collective level? Because making people more aware about security, making people feel like they're a part of the security procedures and policies, that they have a say in it, that they're actively contributing to a more secure and safer workplace, will in turn motivate them more. If this is not the case, and let's say we have a toxic working atmosphere, the relations between employees are not good, employees are not properly informed, employees are met with a hostile attitude from those in charge of providing security, you will get a very bad and dramatic situation very quickly. Because what this does is it sets you up from manipulation, diversion, and sabotage from the inside, whether that's through theft, whether that's through workplace violence, whether that's through terrorism, or just security data breaches, or whatever it may be. People will become negligent if they feel like no one gives a fuck. Um, So this is a very important part of the defensible space theory, the way I recommend that you apply it and look at it. Don't only look at the physical and the materialistic stuff and the natural things surrounding it, but also look at the psychological and you might call it spiritual environment that you frequent in, and how it can either contribute to a proper security plan or it can sabotage and destroy it. So this is a very important thing, and oftentimes you will get a very quick assessment of how employees, clients, and the people in your environment and the atmosphere in your environment came to be, and how it can be changed. So there should be a lot of focus and attention geared towards that. Absolutely. It might be the most important thing of all, because listen, we are dealing with people. The main security risks is people. It's not an assault rifle. It's not a computer. It's not a hacking code. It's not a hash attack. It's not a rainbow. It's not a hash function. It's the people behind this, the people behind the gun, the people behind the computer, the people behind the desk. These are the ones that ultimately determine the effectiveness of your security planning and your security plan, and also determine the threats to it. So if you get a control about that, you already got defensible space done for 70-80%, and the rest is just physical alterations. And if you combine these two together, then you have a proper foundation. And then if you add up to that security measures, technical, physical, whatever they may be, great. It's even better. But the foundation should be much more closer to the heart. So when I speak about counterintelligence and stuff like this, I also many times talk about this object, because it for counterintelligence it basically is the same. Again, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with environments, you're dealing with everything that can either be an obstacle or an asset to your security or counterintelligence approach. And again, if we're talking about intelligence protection, data protection, information protection, well, again, we're talking about people. People handling this information. People are responsible for this information. People are trafficking this information, whether for good or for worse. So if you at least make sure that from the inside, everybody is aware of the information and the responsibility that comes along with that. And apart from that, you give them the virtue, the value of, okay, listen, this is you can have a positive impact on this. We expect you to have a positive impact. We want you to have a positive impact. And we will asking you to have a positive impact on these procedures. Then you will already be a long way in terms of setting a proper counterintelligence and security foundation. That being said, I will do another video. I don't think if I'm going to do it this week or maybe the week next, and we're going to talk about something that's a little more geographical, a little more strategic, if you will. We're going to talk about pretty much the stuff that comes before the actual planning of security and defensible space and stuff like this. We're going to go by selecting the actual space that needs to be defended. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of, let's say, we're going to go through the selection of military bases and checkpoints and why they're chosen and why they should be chosen on certain locations and which locations certainly to avoid. And the same we're going to talk about with creating buildings, building cities, new enterprises, new facilities, storage, warehouse, and stuff like this. But we'll probably do that in another video, because I'm already talking for nearly half an hour, and I think this is good for now. So this has just been like a short analysis, a short analysis, if you will, and of defensible space, the theory created by Oscar Newman, its implications even before Oscar Newman's time throughout history, and the way that I think we should employ it right now, not only to be efficient, but also to be cost effective, and give us a higher chance of getting this agenda through with our superiors or designated risk managers. So I hope that you can do something with this information, whether you are a security professional or just simply interested in theories surrounding security, business, corporate environments, and stuff like this. I wish you a very pleasant weekend, and God bless you. Bye-bye.